Hello and welcome to ABA Made Easy. I'm Mauricio, and today we'll be discussing keeping your New Year's resolution using ABA therapy. Happy 2020, everyone. I know it's been a while, haven't been on here in a while. Even grew out my beard to show time has passed. But we're back, and 2020 is our year. And we are going to knock out these New Year's resolutions, and I'm going to show you how using the principles of ABA therapy. But before we get into it, I'd just like to thank everyone who's subscribed so far. You guys are amazing. I read all the comments. So if you're interested in content like this where you learn the principles of ABA for free, click there to subscribe. But let's get into the video. So the first step in conquering your goal is to operationally define the behavior you want to change, okay? So what does operational definition mean? It's just a fancy term for a good definition, okay? That's all it is. So what makes a good definition? A good definition is when two separate people can read your definition and agree when that instance of behavior has occurred. That's called inter-observer agreement. Okay? So basically, if you put eating healthy as your definition, that's not a good definition, because what some people might consider healthy, other people may not. So that's not a great definition. If you want a good operational definition, it'd be more like ordering food from outside or cooking at home. Those are better definitions of what your goal is when it comes to eating healthy. Next step is that you have to have a method for tracking your progress. This could be on your phone, a whiteboard, a planner, whatever you like. This is all individualized to your preference. You just want to have a way to track what the progress is. And this is one of the core things in ABA therapy. It's all data driven. So if an intervention is not working, you change up the intervention, and the only way you know if it's working or not is by taking data. So it's very important you take data. Now, before you get started on your goal, you need baseline data. So what's baseline data? It's basically any data that you have of the behavior before the intervention is in place. Okay? So if you know that you're eating out 6 times a week and you want to decrease it, your baseline is 6 times a week. If you don't know, it's important that you take the data, take a week, take 2 weeks, take a month, to take the data and see how often you're engaging in that behavior. And this is important. Why? Because you have to make a realistic goal. If you try to go straight for your ultimate goal, yeah, it can happen, but it's much less likely. And that's what the data show in ABA therapy. If you are trying to smoke less cigarettes, for instance, and you cut cold turkey, yeah, we've all heard of that uncle who's done it and it worked perfectly for him. Good for him. But it's a lot harder to get the results you want if you set a goal like that. So it's easier to set a more realistic goal. So if you're going to eat out 6 times a week on a regular basis, bring it down to 5. Or maybe 4 if you're feeling bold. Make a realistic goal, and you could always adjust your goals as you go forward. Okay? So that takes me to my next step. You have to decide whether you're going to increase or decrease the behavior. And there's different techniques for both. If you're going to increase a behavior, you have to make sure you're getting reinforcement, which is something that will make you more likely to engage in that behavior in the future, on a pretty regular basis. So let's say going to the gym more often is your goal, okay? So you're going 2 times a week to start off. You've never really gone to the gym. You want to go 2 times a week. Okay, great. But let's say you hate the gym. So you go to the gym and you don't see the results for a while because your goal is to look good or to be healthier. So you're not going to see the end result immediately. So you need some way to immediately reinforce you after engaging in the behavior. So after you get out of the gym, maybe if you like verbal praise, Get someone that cares about you, someone who's your champion, to reinforce you every time you go to the gym. Hey, you did a great job going to the gym today. So proud of you. Send me those progress pics. Whatever. And then you could fade out the reinforcement schedule to make it not every time you go to the gym, but every 2 times, and then every 3 times. And then you slowly fade it out until it becomes self-reinforcing, or you give yourself reinforcement in other ways. Okay? So that's a tip for increasing the behavior. Now let's say you want to decrease the behavior, like smoking. Well, there's something called motivating operations in ABA therapy, or MO for motivating operations. Basically what that is that an SD, or discriminative stimulus, whatever's prompting you to engage in a certain behavior, goes up when you're deprived of that for a long time. So if you're hungry, it's a motivating operation that's increased that makes you want to eat when you see food, and the food is the stimulus. Same thing with cigarettes, for instance. So how do you combat that? Because if you take cigarettes out of your life completely and then you go to friends who smoke, or you go to a bar where they're smoking, the sight of a cigarette is going to have such a high motivating operation that you might engage in it. You have a higher chance of engaging in it. So we want to use desensitization. So basically what you want to do is always carry a cigarette on you, or have a pack of cigarettes in a place that's very visible in the house. And then when you see it, it desensitizes you, and you exert self-control and you don't engage in that behavior. Now if you want to take it a step further, let's say you have a cigarette in your purse. Also, right next to it, you should have a replacement behavior. So have nicotine gum right next to it. So if you're reaching for the cigarette, instead, take a piece of gum and reinforce yourself, or tell someone about it if you like verbal praise. Say, hey, look, I chose the gum over the cigarette this time. And they say, good job. And that will help reduce that type of behavior. So quick recap. First, operationally define that behavior. Make it a good definition that 2 people would agree when they see it. 2, choose some way of tracking your behavior. Remember, ABA therapy is evidence-based, data-driven, so you need to be able to track the behavior. 3, baseline data. Before starting the intervention, know how often you're engaging in that behavior, and then that'll give you an idea of what a good realistic goal is, and you can adjust the goal as you go on. If you're trying to increase the behavior, make sure you have a way to get reinforcement pretty often at first and then fade it out. If you're decreasing a behavior, make sure you have a replacement behavior handy, and you can use desensitization. Alright, that's all I have for this video. Thanks again everyone who subscribed so far. It's very humbling. Like this video if you can. It helps me a lot. It helps me go up in the algorithms and show up in other people's feeds. And it's really good because I feel that these type of tools and ABA therapy and education in general should be free and public for everyone. You shouldn't have to pay for these type of things. Thank you for all that subscribed already. If you're interested in more content like this, hit subscribe as well. And I'll catch you in the next one.